Now in its 7th year of podcasting, Trekzone presents a Trekzone conversation with your host, Matt Miller.
Well, welcome to the show. It is the very first one on our Vegas or Bust tour. It kicked off last night, I don't know, I've travelled back in time, and waiting for me, as he always is, Dr. Trek himself, Mr. Larry Nemecek. Larry, thanks for coming back to Trekzone.
Thanks, Matthew. But, you know, if you've mastered the space-time continuum, tell me about it, because we did Comic-Con on our way to Vegas. I have 3 Trekland Treks days coming, and we're doing a Valley of Fire tour for Geek Nation Tours on Tuesday. So, yeah, this has been the most intensive couple of weeks for me since the 2016 50th
and it's
hoopla.
It's a crazy good, though, isn't it? It's great to be busy with Trek again.
Oh, yeah. The last 6 months, 9 months, ever since Alex's contract came out, and then they started leaking qualified high-level leaks of all these shows spitting out, whatever they might wind up being, and then the Picard meltdown last year at Vegas. And people everyone reacts in the moment, right? It's like the quick take. And what I always try to do, like at Trekland and Portal 47, is sit back and no, wait a minute, what's the big picture here? And 6 months, 9 months ago, I'm saying, guys, think about this. If this is carried off and if it's done well, those are big ifs, and it's not only a matter of intentions. It's sometimes you're upstream here with things being buffered in your face despite your best intentions. But if all these things come off, forget the 90s, but forget the 90s as far as 2 series and a movie going. The franchise that invented multiple platforms at once, way before cinematic universes was a buzzword. We're about to get back to that. You're talking about, 2, 3 series and 2 animated series and now short treks is not just opening up series topics, but also formats. You're going to have the flexibility to do all the cool things I wish they were doing in the 90s. But they couldn't because everything was a 26 episode a year network, or syndication business model. And now the freedom we have with all these formats, these places, streaming, length of season, length of episode, one-offs, shorties, and then to say, well, okay, Picard, here's where, of course they're going to have new characters. Of course they're going to structure it because he is, at his age. But if they're smart about it, I believe somebody even quoted me back a podcast I did with Chris Jones on Trek FM and Ready Room, like in 2015, where we were saying if they were smart, they would at least use this as a way to plug in cameos, and update that, do a service to those fans at the same time growing a new format, a new character base. And that's what they're doing, and then they had news that wasn't even covered in the 90 minutes, barely, like the short trek. So it's amazing. And barely, I said, told someone, being at Comic-Con, doing all your own stuff, they rolled out so many headlines at Comic-Con that the worst place to be to absorb it all was being at Comic-Con if you were busy already.
Exactly.
And covering the physical space and finding decent Wi-Fi to watch videos and just watching people that you trusted live tweets and things at times. It was insane, but it's all as you said, it's a good insane.
Get exclusive access to podcasts and behind-the-scenes info by becoming a member on Patreon today. Supporting Australia's unofficial home of Star Trek gets even better with membership starting at just $1 per month. Jump over to patreon.com/TrekZoneOrg.au.
And of course, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Miramat86, which is a joke, which stems all the way back to my one and only appearance on Trek FM. I had a goatee at the time, so I became the Mirror Universe version of myself. And you can find Larry on Twitter at Larry Nemecek and Facebook with Portal 47 Trekland. Larry, give us all those details. There's too many to list.
Yes, Facebook is at Larry Nemecek's Trekland, which is also my Instagram. The main Facebook hub is Larry Nemecek's Trekland, but yes, I have pages for Portal 47, portal47.net, treklandtreks.com, which is our day tours. A lot of cool things exploding in the experiential realm here. But the podcast with Roddenberry is the Trek Files on Facebook and podcasts anywhere. And Tuesdays Live here on Facebook, on my Facebook Trekland page. Every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, which Measure it in your years, Matt. I'm not sure.
Fantastic. Well, Larry, let's dive into this news that we've got from Comic-Con now that you've had a little bit of time to sit back and digest it at home. Let's start with Star Trek Picard. We've got a fully fleshed out trailer now, our first one, and I'm pretty sure I had you on for the first fully fleshed out Discovery trailer as well, and a lot of things sort of panned out and a few things changed. So what's your initial reaction to this Star Trek Picard trailer?
They're doing good on them. They're following exactly what I said in 2015. Well, it's a mix of this new cast. They've got some good actors, some newcomers, some we know, like Alison Pill. There's an arc to it. Obviously, this Issa Brion's character is on some kind of a mission, searches out Picard. That's what instigates his trek at the beginning to Starfleet Command to see what's going on. The brunette sitting with him in some of those far off location shots was probably her indeed. And they've been more tweets have come from directors and crew people. So it's really an interesting strategy they're doing, by the way, here. They're really not releasing everything officially. They're making fans hunt for it, which is a total side topic. I think there's a whole meta social media strategy that may be playing in well with anybody under 35, which is brilliant. But as far as the cast goes, and then rolling out that trailer for the Hall H people and anybody live streaming, and then immediately after, Brent Spiner as probably not Data, but probably as B4. And then the Jerry Ryan reveal was awesome. There are breadcrumbs now you can go back and go see some of the method to the madness going on with some of the media, the official magazine, talking about Borg. We were all focused on Romulus and the post of the Romulus, diaspora after the explosion, the subspace shockwave, and now here's a Borg element to it. So yeah, people melted down over that. And then to come back where it's not just B4 parts, it's it's a wide-eyed, blue-eyed B4 / Data there at the end.
Yellow-eyed.
Yeah, yellow-eyed. What did I say? Yes. Well, the big yellow eyes. So Picard was interesting. The panel. It was obvious it was one of those love affairs to the senior member here, the icon, that everyone was beholden to him, including, Alex. And anyway, I just think it shows a lot of the little touches, as much as there will be new, some of the little touches without looking like they're fan service. I totally trust. I think it's the fine hand of Michael Chabon and his Pulitzer clout in the room and becoming, showrunner out of that mix of people eventually. With, I'm sure, a fine assist by Kirsten Beyer. Who's on that staff too. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. The Vulcans were looking a little elvish there, which was kind of interesting. Yeah.
I'm wondering whether they're Vulcans or possibly New Age Romulans.
Right. And a definite elder Romulan there, I think. But we can't tell. But some kind of differentiation going on. And the Borg Cube reveal, and the 7 reveal was
chills.
I'm sitting here trying to, trying to get back to it. But enough of the focus on the new characters coming, where it was a mix, and then to verbally announce, yes, we'll have Riker and Troy.
I mean, by the way, here's Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis.
Yeah, right. Verbally, we didn't stick him in the trailer, but we'll throw that out there too. And Jonathan Del Arco playing Hugh Borg, which was who would have seen that coming? But it's a good use. There's maybe the best use of the canon. They're going to have Borg threads. Why not go get 7? But to have had to reach back to get Hugh Borg, that was going to be interesting. And again, that's where I see Michael and Kirsten's fine hand in that mix there. I think for the growing pains and the startup, the labor pains, as I keep calling it, for Discovery, people who keep trying to lump all these shows in the same, Kurtzman umbrella, they need to just stop it, because each of these shows has different people involved. They are evolving in different times. The oldest child always has a different situation than the middle child and the next few and the baby. This will take my divorce metaphor for Viacom to a whole new level. But I mean,
split the children
people
up.
Really get out of those ruts and think about it that way. And this show is having the best. It's benefiting the most from the oldest child's troubled birth, I think. I mean, you just look at the screen and look at the social media reaction, the critical reaction, the fan reaction. People are just, I've seen a couple of people go, don't tease me. This can't be this good. They're setting themselves up for disappointment. I'm like, good grief, guys, come on.
And of course, there is a minority as well that are absolutely that wanted new Trek, that wanted us to go past Nemesis. And now that we've gone past Nemesis and we've created things that actually don't need to stick to any sort of canon or what's about to come or anything like that, and they're still not happy, Larry.
Exactly. Well, that was the other thing we were saying, like in 2015. Well, this would be for the folks who were saying, "Oh, I'm tired of the prequels," as the Bajoran prophets would say. That's such lineal thinking.
Exactly.
Because to me, it's all parts of the universe, of the Trek universe. Like, fill in those gaps. So,
yes.
Yeah, I can't, but I can see, I totally got it with Discovery's birth. I totally got it. Even here, the evolutions of uniforms. I love the segment of fandom that's going, show us a clear shot of a comm badge. It's really funny. There's like a loud 10%. And I don't blame them. That's the cool loud 10%. That's really cute and funny.
Exactly.
But everything that they've seen evolved visually here also feels good and right and has people excited. And there are people already cosplaying, thanks to that incident in the trailer a couple of months ago, there are people cosplaying the Discovery era Starfleet uniforms. They're building them for Vegas already. They may not be as accurate as they could be, but there are people jumping in, to modify their Voyager jumpsuits or whatever. There'll be people trying to cosplay Picard era uniforms at Vegas and on down the lines, which is, just incredible.
It's a fantastic time to be alive as a Trekkie. We have all this stuff going on. I do wonder whether we're now done with prequels in the franchise. Discovery's moved forward. Picard is obviously after Nemesis. Lower Decks is around the same time. What are you thinking?
Yeah. Can I just ask that we just throw out that whole, when you have a universe, we're not talking about one show, okay? If we'd had the original series and then the next thing to come along 20 years later, finally, instead of the Next Generation was a throwback show to go to a Pike era or something, to an Archer type era, whatever that would have looked like being made in 1986, 87, then I would say, okay, prequel. But we're in a place where, again, we have a sandbox on different levels. We can go anywhere. The term prequel is so limiting. It's like, where in the universe, in the franchise, are we going to go next? So, yes, if you want to stick with this limited word, I'm not criticizing you, Matt. I know you're just picking up the vernacular.
I was getting nervous.
But to me, I still want to see the Romulan War, and I still want to see the founding of the Federation. It's like, holy Jesus Christ, how much longer do we have to wait for those to be aired somewhere? But this is the era with Picard, Discovery, the animated series, with the Section 31 coming, with maybe a Pike series coming beyond short treks, whatever. This is the era where you can conceive of that happening without, somebody getting, some executive or bean counter somewhere getting their pants in a wad. But we are owed that. We are owed that's so crying out to be depicted finally on film and canonized, made part of canon. Have a definitive Romulan War and founding of the Federation era. And then we've got plenty of eras. We have Archer to Kirk era, not 10 years before Kirk, but I mean really truly midway. And we even have, we have midway Kirk to Picard, to midway to Kirk to Stargazer even. So, and we've never really seen the Stargazer except for the throwback with, used recycled sets in the battle. So there's lots of eras to go to, but yes, it'll be fun to see what all the people who said, let's move forward again. I think most people are in love with this. Again, I think it's just the loud 10%. We have just a whole new industry of clickbait folk now that, are making money on that or they're being paid to. So
new content is being added all the time to Trekzone's YouTube channel. Talking Science with Dr. Brad Tucker on Tuesdays, Trekzone Live on Thursdays, and a Trekzone Conversation on Saturdays. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe and ring the bell to get fresh public releases.
All right, well, we should keep going because we could talk for hours, and I think we will, Larry, when we meet up in Vegas.
I have one regret about the about Lower Decks. It looks awesome. I love the Cation Doctor. I guess I'm going to have to wait a little longer for my Tellarite regular character, though. So, but good on Mike McMahon and what they're doing with Lower Decks.
It certainly has a big Rick and Morty vibe about it, but obviously based on who the creator is and the showrunner, it's to be expected. I certainly was hoping that it wasn't going to be a rehash of 70s animated series. Good as that was for the time, it sort of kind of hasn't stood the test of time.
It wasn't. Well, it's nostalgic and all that.
Yes.
But no, it was of the time, and it was TV budget, and now those aren't constraints that we have to deal
Absolutely.
with. Time and budget, and animation is at a whole different level than it was. It's not, animation is not Saturday morning stuff or Disney, like one of the two. And now it's in its place. And that style is, I don't even think of that as Rick and Morty. I just think of that as one of the snarky modern hip animation styles, Rick and Morty or not. So I'm not tied down by that. But we should probably mention, what's that other show? That's that old show? Oh, Discovery.
Oh, Discovery, yes. I was trying to think of where you were going with this.
I had you totally baffled.
You did.
I love how Discovery is now like, oh, well, let's bring Sonequa down and a new guy, and we'll talk about Discovery. It's like, yeah.
Discovery, is that still happening? I thought that was
That's how
cancelled.
fast things move. Exactly. Yeah. You gotta quit hanging around those shows that have no track record of reality at all.
Lesson learned. You've steered me right, Larry. Hey, listen, it's going to be very interesting because Lower Decks, I believe Lower Decks and Picard are happening in around the same time. So I wonder if these uniforms that we've seen in Lower Decks are what we're going to be seeing in Picard, although we have seen some uniforms in Picard.
Right. Well, is Lower Decks, did they say a year? Because Picard is 20 years after-ish. It's 20 years-ish after Nemesis.
That's actually a good point. Because, I don't think there has been a time. I think the only time reference has been after Nemesis.
Right. So Lower Decks might be right. Lower Decks might be the first thing after the Grey Tops. So,
Okay.
we'll see. We'll see. And the new ones in Picard might have just been rolled out. Hey, look, we went from the 60s big blue, gold, and red shirts to the pajamas of motion picture in 2 years, supposedly. And then we go from the pajamas of motion picture somewhere within the next 15, 16 years to the marching maroons. So, or the monster maroons, excuse me. So I think in my head canon, and the fact that the ops division between Discovery and the two pilots, I think there's a battle between admirals over whether the ops division will be tan or red. And I think every other year they fight and it flips back. So the quartermaster division of Starfleet is where all the really big political turf battles are happening.
No one ever thinks about the quartermaster.
He's just crying out for attention. He just wants the corner office at Starfleet. That's all he wants.
I think that would be a brilliant short trek. Just to have that comic relief episode where it's just, oh my God, we're changing uniforms again? I have to design another one? Oh, and now they want to be red.
Yeah.
When will it end?
Exactly. See, but it's a little bit like, and I love the bit in the short treks. They had the short trek trailer, and we barely talked about those. But of the three they're doing, here you go. They've got a format. They're nimble enough to be able to respond to that outcry from more Pike. And okay, at number one in Spock. but
mainly
where
Pike.
Spock comes aboard the first time, and number one says, "You don't have to shout, Ensign." That's such a cute throwback to shouty Spock, right, in the cage.
Yeah.
Scanners on maximum,
Well, I'm really looking forward to short treks, and especially that one. I reckon it's going to be called Q&A, the one where number one and Spock get stuck in the turbo lift. It's such a simple premise, such a simple setup that's going to really expand these characters, and not just the characters but the actors portraying the characters.
Well, it's been a C story on Next Generation and a B story on DS9, and the main thread, a shuttle pod, not an elevator, but an episode on Enterprise. So it's a lovable trope, and it's a great way to get the two of them in and have a budget. I mean, it's going to be pretty simple.
Yes.
But a great character piece. So I love the way they threw the 6 titles out, and we don't know exactly, but none of those 6 are the title on the clapboard of the director's Instagrams that leaked 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I don't know if they had a last minute change, or if that was again one of those meta, super sneaky. Let's have leaks out there. It's coming from CBS promotion. Let's leak things that aren't really true, but we'll just officially leak things and act like they were accidents and make people take them down in six hours.
Whoopsies.
You can get social with Trekzone. Australia's unofficial home of Star Trek is everywhere you are. Get the wrap-up on our Facebook page, keep in the loop on Twitter, and relive Trek episodes on Instagram. Just search for Trekzone.
All right, right, well, that is the news, albeit very briefly, about what we saw at San Diego. Vegas is next week. It kicks off next week, runs all weekend. Trekzone is heading there. This is very exciting, the first international trip for this little website. Larry,
glad to see you there finally, yes.
It's going to be amazing to meet you in person and meet everyone in person. What are we in store for? Obviously, there are some of those 10%, or all of that 10% are saying, they've released everything at San Diego Comic-Con. What's the point of having Vegas? This is ridiculous. But it turns out that there's this little show that we've completely forgotten about. Couple of shows we've forgotten about.
The old show, Discovery?
The older brother.
Well, I will just say that's what was announced at San Diego. They somewhere along the way said they didn't wind up at Terra Elysium. They were somewhere else. Like the projections all didn't come. Like, no, really? Like, okay, what were we saying 9 months ago? Everybody was just assuming it was going to go perfectly. And I'm like, and that dot came from where they thought it was. Whoever assumed the suit, blah, blah, blah. Timey-wimey, whatever. I will be, that's so predictable. They're going to go back to that church in that colony and have a whole season there? No. Anyway, we saw that coming. But so much of this is like, well, now let's stop and think. What did they want to do? What's possible? What makes sense as dramatic storytelling and writing and all that? But Vegas, they just rolled out all the still hired by the show actors. A lot of folks who have died and gone on had already been announced, but they rolled out most of the Discovery cast for Vegas, which was going to be in the offing. You notice at the press conference for Picard, they had the entire cast up there, but they let them say very little because that's still very much in the cocoon. And I don't know how much it's just safer keeping them away from people and the press and making their own slip of tongues, at Vegas that way. So we'll see what the emphasis is. But for the folks who said, why go to Vegas when you had it all at Comic-Con, I have one word for you. And the one word is 2018.
Technically, that's 2 words, Larry.
Because my old, game plan was that, yes, they would go for not only the numbers, but where is all the mainstream media? It's Vegas is so inside baseball. It's all the hardcore base. Why do we preach to them? And last year, announcing #Picard at Vegas was just a masterstroke and won people over with, the hardcore over who were, a lot of them still faltering and grumbling and, whatever, about all access. And so after last year, it's like conventional wisdom's out the window. I'm waiting for several more nuggets saved back from Comic-Con to come out. So we'll see.
And there certainly are going to be nuggets because we haven't heard about Section 31, although that's been cancelled. We haven't heard about Discovery, Nick Trek. So there's 3 shows right off the bat that we haven't heard anything about. And I think that they're sort of at this point where Picard was last year, as you're saying, that these 3 shows sort of are at the point where only the diehard fans are really going to be excited about this news because it is such a long game before we're going to see those. Whereas Picard is coming in months.
Right. And, Vegas is still a celebration of all the past 53 years technically, or actually 55 years, with the Cage being 55. And by the way, I just want to say I'd had him as a Portal 47 guest for our membership online, but it was such a thrill to finally meet Robert Butler, who directed The Cage and is still with us at age 91. He's done a couple of live appearances the last few years. He did an Emmy show, a thing at UCLA a few years ago, but we had 300 people in a room, 100 turned away. Wow. And there was so much love in the room for everything Trek, going back to Cage, having Pike and Vina and, young Spock on Discovery kind of made it all topical again, which was part of my timeliness reason for doing this. But, it was just a wonderful moment, and he was so thankful. He was so self-deprecating as just a director, and gosh, look at the crowd I got being just a director at Comic-Con. So that was a lot of fun. I just want to throw it. And the videos, we'll be putting the videos, and if somebody hasn't already put videos and things up already of that panel, but not quite a Hall H, but it was a jam-packed room as much as the fire marshals would let us. A wonderful time, and he had at least 50 to 100 people come by afterwards to sign, and it was just a lovely day. I was so proud to be able to do that.
Fantastic, Larry. Well, we are 1 week away from STLV. You'll be there. I'll be there. The beers are on me. And it's going to be very exciting.
That's on tape now, on digital tape.
On digital audio tape.
Yes.
Spin it up in the 1-inch machine.
That's the truth. Okay.
That's the word. Larry Nemecek, thanks as always for your time, buddy, and we'll see you next week.
See you there, Matt. Track well.